This podcast is a member of the Voices of Wrestling Podcasting Network. Visit voicesofwrestling.com to hear the rest of our great podcasts, as well as show reviews, columns, opinions, and updates across the world of wrestling.
Competition starting to get thick, it's the click, so I hope you watch your A game. A man, no rain from the track when we unite and spit. This is an A game, better bring your A game. Competition starting to get thick, it's the click, so I hope you watch your A game. A man, no rain from the track.
Hey now, it's the Mike and JD show, and I'm your host, Mike Gilbert, and the man himself is back. JD, by God, I lost his video feed there.
I did.
JD, are you here?
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
I don't know what's going on. I'm having one of those nights tonight, man. This is just unbelievably frustrating. Just talk about yourself for a second. I'll be back.
Okay. JD will be back. And I will talk about the thing that I like to talk about the most in this world, which is myself. And we will be having BJ Bethel coming on the show here pretty soon. He's actually already in the green room, so we're gonna start off with him in just a few short minutes. But and he's gonna weigh in on this topic too, because he actually was a little bit involved. So I'm gonna go ahead and start the show off hot, and I'm gonna address my enemies. That is the main headline for the show. Mike addresses his enemies, and I'm going to go ahead and explain to everybody what happened with me over the weekend. Okay.
I'm glad I'm back for this.
Yes. Okay. So in the lead up to Slammiversary last week, Jordynne Grace went on, I think she was being interviewed by Sports Illustrated. So a big publication, a big website. And in that interview, she said, talking about Slammiversary, she said the surprises are going to be even bigger than people realize. Now, she is the only one at that point. TNA did not advertise any surprises. Typically, TNA, like on their show, will tease surprises. They had not done anything like that. So she was just saying it. She said the surprises are going to be bigger than people even realize. And then she goes on to say TNA and NXT do surprises better than any other promotion. Okay. So that's what Jordynne Grace said to Sports Illustrated. Now, in her defense, she is just promoting a show. She's being a promoter at that point. Was that a bit strong? Of course, it's a bit strong, but that's what you do when you're promoting a show. But when she said that, AEW fans took that because now TNA is in the culture war because they're in bed with WWE. So now they have to. They're part of. They're part of the stones that are being thrown by AEW fans, the tribals. So because of that, AEW fans thought that she was taking a shot at them. And I was kind of having some fun with that. Me and Scott had a little bit of fun with that on last week's show. I had some fun with that on Twitter, kind of making fun of AEW fans thinking that everything is about them. That's what happened, right? So and then we get to Slammiversary, and match after match goes by. And there's no surprises. And then in the co-main event, as I predicted, Earl Hebner was there. And they did a Montreal Screwjob type thing where they teased it. And then, of course, Earl Hebner, instead of screwing over Speedball Bailey and getting into bed with Mustafa Ali, he turned on Ali, turned babyface in Montreal, got the big pop. And Speedball Mike Bailey, at the end of a very good match, by the way, was awarded the X Division title. And Earl Hebner was raising his hand. So he finally, after all these years, turns babyface in Montreal. Then we get to the main event, and the show goes off the air. Nick Nemeth, the new World Heavyweight Champion, and there's no surprises. There's no WWE surprises. Everybody that was advertised to be there was there, with one exception, Jonathan Gresham, who was supposed to be on the pre-show. Okay, so then me, Twitter asshole, actually, I'll double back. We'll go to the Brace for Impact chat. Now I'm going to give, those guys are always like dropping one-liners in there. We're all kind of busting balls. And I believe it was Dobby the Brain Heenan in the Brace for Impact chat said, man, if Earl Hebner was a surprise, Jordynne has to relinquish her title right now because that is bullshit. And I took that joke, and I'm a serial one-upper, and I was like, but here's the way I want to say it. Because I also want to tweak AEW fans at the same time. I'm trying to piss a lot of people off and just make myself laugh and make JD laugh and really pop the boys in the Brace for Impact chat. And so I said, and here's I'm gonna pull up my tweet. Okay. And then what I'm going to do, I'm going to do something that I have vowed never to do in my entire adult life, because I feel like my heroes, Richard Pryor and George Carlin, would be ashamed of me. But I'm going to explain comedy to people. Okay. Because we got a lot of stupid fucking people in this world that don't understand jokes. Okay. So I said, according to Jordynne Grace, the Earl Hebner surprise was as good as Bryan Danielson's AEW debut at All Out. Because Earl Hebner was the big surprise reveal. Hope she becomes a jobber in WWE now. That last line a little stiff.
Little stiff. Little stiff.
Admittedly, that's a bit stiff. Okay. And so Jordynne claps back at me appropriately, by the way. She is allowed to do this. Okay. She said, never said this, but do apologize. Thank you for your apology, Jordynne. I appreciate it. She said, but do apologize for the lack of surprise. Could have never predicted a global tech outage, canceling thousands of flights. Several wrestlers, including my husband, could not make it. Well, in actuality, Jordynne, only one wrestler couldn't make it that was advertised. That happened to be your husband. Everybody else showed up to work that day. But I regret trying to hype the show with a statement. Sorry, guys. And again, apology accepted, Jordynne. I really appreciate you, admitting where you were wrong, and you were clearly very wrong. Now, comedy. Okay. Did she say the exact words that I said? No. But I also didn't put that in a news report. I didn't put quotations around it. I was making a joke at the expense of AEW fans who thought that she was talking about them in the tweet or in the story that she said. And if you take what she said, where they do surprises better than any other promotion out there, you could connect the dots to say that surprise that happened at Slammiversary was as good as the Bryan Danielson surprise at All Out. That's the joke, dummies. That's the joke. And then me saying, I hope she becomes a jobber in WWE is what we call a mean joke. That's just me being a dick for laughs. Okay. Now, Jordynne quote tweeted me appropriately, clapped back at me, and I have no problem whatsoever with Jordynne, with what she said. Her quote tweet I thought was completely fine. She explained things. She, got some of her attack dogs on me. I can handle that. When I'm saying those things on Twitter and I'm kind of being a jerk, I open myself up to stuff like that. And I want to correct somebody that said something to me, that sent me a message and said, Jordynne shouldn't be punching down like that. And that fucking pisses me off, because nobody punches down to me, because I'm not beneath anybody. I don't give a fuck if they're more famous than me or if they got more money than me. Nobody in this world will ever punch down to me, because I'm not beneath anybody else, right? And so when I'm tweeting like that and I'm making jokes and I'm opening myself up for that and I'm insulting people that are famous, they have every right to come back at me. She had every right to say what she said. Where I have a problem is dumb Chelsea Green. She responded to that, and she looked at my Twitter profile and said, oh, that last line about being a jobber is gross. You're a girl dad. You should know better than that. And I was like, that is the weirdest tweet anybody's ever tweeted me. And I've had some pretty weird tweets. She took that last line that I said and made it seem like I'm a sexist and I'm a bad father, because I made a joke about Jordynne Grace losing wrestling matches. Guys, those matches ain't real. Okay. The promoter gets to pick who wins. And if she's winning or losing, she's getting paid the same. And I happen to really like Jordynne Grace. and I'm a big fan of hers. And no, I don't want her to go be a jobber in WWE. That's the part of the joke. That's the funny part. That the people that know me, the people that follow me, and the people that listen to this program understand my humor. They understand my sarcasm, and they got the joke immediately. And if you just strolled by on my timeline and you saw that and you were upset about that joke, I don't give a shit what you think. You can go piss up a rope and jump in a lake. I really don't care about you. I don't care about your feelings. I don't care what you think. Okay. Now, Chelsea Green, I have to apologize to Chelsea Green, because when I made that tweet and I said that word jobber, I didn't realize Chelsea knew how to use the internet. So I didn't think that she could be able to read that stuff. And in fact, to go even further, I was unaware that she knew how to read. So Chelsea, I'm apologizing to you right now. I had no idea that you were able to do those things. Okay. But for you to sit there and call me a sexist and then I'm a bad father because I said the word jobber, you're a dummy, Chelsea. You're an absolute idiot. This lady sent thousands of people after me, which I muted, by the way. I had people telling me that they hope my family leaves me. I had somebody tell me that not only they hope my family leaves me, that they hope my family leaves me and that I kill myself. I had people saying mean things about my kid, mean things about my family, all kinds of stuff, all because you misinterpreted joke and you want to get the word jobber canceled. Okay. And look, if you're offended by the word jobber, that's fine because that's what you are. So I understand why you're offended by that. That makes sense to me. Now Dustin Rhodes comes out and he is a gentleman. He's a professional. And he actually made a tweet saying why he doesn't like the word jobber. And I respect him for that. I respect that. What Chelsea Green did was she's offended by that. And she's assuming that I should know that she's offended by that. And instead of explaining to me, she just went on Twitter and said that I'm a bad dad and that I'm a sexist, right? She didn't explain it to me because I don't know that that's an offensive word. In fact, Al Snow put that word into my lexicon when I'm 13 years old. That's just a word that I've been using my whole life.
Oh, you mean like the Job Squad? That one?
Like Job Squad. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So now you guys are trying to make it into a racial sexist type of slur. Now that is becoming a slur. And we did not find out about that till this weekend. But you can't get mad at me for saying a word that I didn't know was offensive because I just didn't know. So I really don't care what Chelsea Green thinks, if she's even able to think, because if she really thought things through, she wouldn't have said what she said and sent her attack dogs after me. And for all those people that came after me, I don't care. I got the thickest skin imaginable. You guys can't get to me. You guys can't hurt my feelings. You guys can't do any of those things. It's just not possible. I'm unflappable. You guys can't get to me. It doesn't matter. And for everybody, I really appreciate you. I had people texting me, sending me messages, checking on me. Yo, I was fine. I was like, I went to the beach on Sunday. I barbecued on Sunday. I grilled like 20 chicken thighs. I made dinner for a bunch of people. I was living the dream because you know what I did? I just muted that stuff and I just moved on. The only reason I saw some of the meanest stuff is because people sent it to me. Like, hey, I'm sorry this person said this about you. I was like, I didn't know that until you sent it to me. So thank you. So for everybody that was trying to get under my skin, that was trying to hurt my feelings, you cannot do that. You cannot do that through Twitter because I have been through things that none of you guys would even think are imaginable. I have seen dead bodies, blown up things. I've had blood all over me. I have woken up to bombs, bullets, and all kinds of shit. You guys can't fucking touch me, boys. Just not possible. I am too good for you and too smart, and I'm too fucking awesome. JD, how are you?
I'm okay.
You're okay? All right. Okay. So I just felt the need to address that. And a guy that was really went to bat for me, and I wish he didn't. And I'll explain it. BJ, I'm pulling BJ up on the show. You know, BJ Bethel, who is too good for any of this stuff, really went to bat for me on Twitter, and I wish he did, and I wish nobody else did, because when I'm fighting these battles, I don't want other people to get caught into my mess that I create, and I create a lot of messes because I'm trying to be hilarious. And at times I think I am, and sometimes I'm just not. So I do feel bad for BJ jumping in there, and then all of a sudden her attack dogs went after BJ. But I get the feeling that BJ has some thick skin too, and he can deal with it.
Actually, you're right. I regret ever jumping in and helping you out.
I didn't.
I don't. You know what? We've been buddies on there for a while. Same with JD. I'll defend anybody, and that was a crap comment what she said. And I mean, I've had so many people try to cancel me, I've lost count. And what she said is she tried to imply that you were a bad father because, you know, you did your little thing with Jordynne Grace, which was, you know, purposely hyperbolic and sarcastic in a joke. And of course, you know, people with millions of Twitter followers who make hundreds of $1,000s a year don't have thick enough skin to take it. And I thought it was totally out of line. And that's one thing I didn't like about the whole thing with you, Mike, was that nobody really told Chelsea, like, what are you going after this guy like this for? It's like, it's not even involving you.
Yeah. Well, so I'll be honest. I did have a friend that knows Chelsea a little bit and actually DM'd her, and she was really upset at my use of the term jobber. That's what set her off. And she said, well, he said that word, so he is like a jerk. Or well, I can't remember exactly what she said. He showed me the message. I'm not going to pull the message up, but she did reply to him and said, don't ever defend somebody like that to me. She thinks I'm like scum of the earth for using that term jobber. She legit thinks that it's like saying a slur for real.
Okay. I just want to ask JD a question real quick.
Oh, yeah, sure. I'm on the show too.
Yes, yes. What's it always like whenever I come on and it seems like me and Mike are a total complete mess and you're just kind of by the side watching this dumpster, explode as it's floating down the street,
I couldn't get my computer started today, so I'm of no means to talk about anybody. So here's what a couple thoughts on this as Mike was going crazy. One, did Jonathan Gresham actually approach the flight desk and tell them his ranking in the PWI 500? Maybe that would have gotten things better moving.
Yeah, if he did, he would have made it to Montreal, I think.
2, Chelsea Green is not good at wrestling. She's also not funny, and which is disappointing because, like, I don't know, there's an opportunity to have fun and, like, make fun of somebody. Like, if you're gonna make fun of somebody, like, at least be humorous. And it wasn't even humorous. Top Dollar tried to say some stuff, which I was very proud of, that his jokes are way worse than the jokes we've made at his expense for the better part of 2 years on this show. So I stand proud of that and say, not only are you terrible at your job, but you're also not funny.
No, he said that my tweet to Jordynne was the closest I've ever been to a woman. And I was legit sitting next to my pregnant wife when he said that.
Which is funny because he's so fucking stupid that the joke was you're a bad dad. So clearly you have touched a woman.
Yeah.
Can't verify that you have a wife, by the way. So, I mean, that's why this is why pro wrestling needs writers, because a lot of the people in this industry are too fucking stupid to say anything clever or creative. But you pay top dollar to see me. There's like 6 people that go to your indie shows, dude. You fucking suck.
If you're hearing weird noises, that's because the semi truck ahead of me is using its air brake.
That's okay.
And it's making me deaf right now.
Just don't die.
We don't have to stay on this topic all night.
Oh, I got one more thing. Mike.
Okay, go ahead.
Here's where I'm at this. You have taken up the TNA sword for years.
Yeah.
You lasted longer than I did doing this TNA thing, right? And what I find the best part about all this is you have been nothing but positive and not positive, but I mean, like, you talk about TNA. You're one of the few guys in mainstream wrestling media who focus on TNA. But you got here's what the funny part is: you were trying to make fun of AEW fans, and you wound up calling down the wrath of WWE fans, the worst of the bottom feeders, the worst troglodytes that Twitter has to offer. Like, the lowest of the low now hate you. And I just find that superbly ironic that you were trying to make fun of the other side of the tribalism and wound up becoming public enemy number 1 of WWE fans. So, like, you have officially become a victim of this TNA NXT relationship because you aren't, I don't know, cool enough or something. I have no idea. You are now public enemy number 1, and I just want to enjoy the moment.
I pissed off a lot of people with that tweet because I had TNA fans coming after me too, and I had some TNA fans defending me in the thing, but I think everybody can agree that jobber line was stiff as shit.
I read that
really hard, man.
I read that. I'm like, I said, "Damn, Mike, that's harsh." Like,
it's
pretty stiff sometimes, but that was harsh.
Well, it's one of those things. It's like, it sounds hilarious in my head, and then I send the tweet out, and it's like, oh, fuck, that was kind of mean. Actually, I was like, in my head it was innocent, and then when it gets on Twitter, it's like, shit, this is kind of mean. And then I was thinking, I was like, Jordynne might come across this, and I was like, she won't. And then I go to bed. And I wake up and all hell had broken loose because naturally she saw the thing. Because look, she knows who I am. I'm one of
their names. You didn't.
And she knows. What's that?
You didn't tag her, did you?
No, I don't tag. I never tag her in that stuff unless I'm saying something positive. I will never tag somebody and say something mean to them because I just think that's like weird behavior. But I will, if I'm going to praise them, I'm going to tag them, right? I think that's a nice thing to do, because when I'm coming after somebody, like, I legitimately don't want to hurt anybody's feelings. Like, I legitimately don't. So I'm not going to go ahead and tag them. That's just not my MO. I legit was just trying to make my followers who kind of understand my dumb humor laugh. And it did make people laugh. But even then, like, I can admit that was like, honestly, like, I did it again in June. So I really got to like rethink some of my strategy here about how mean I'm going to be on Twitter in June, because TNA was during the Grace match with Roxy, Ash by Elegance interfered. And I said, TNA is using WWE television time to promote an Ash by Elegance match. And then I just put go out of business. And I was like, that last line was very stiff, right? Like super, but it's also, I feel like it's outrageous and funny, and I think stuff like that is funny. But I could see why someone's like, they're not really interested in that humor, and that's fine. Look, if you guys don't think I'm funny,
Well,
you don't have
there's
to
a
follow.
solution. There's a solution to people who don't like somebody's humor. It's you don't
Yeah.
follow them and you don't read their stuff. It's just like, okay, you know, I don't like that he bashes jobbers or uses the word. I'm not gonna follow that guy. I mean, that's a choice you can make. But
Yeah.
I think another thing that's to your side on this is that job has become jobber. The term job. Now I understand wrestlers might get offended because there was always this group of job guys in 80s, 90s wrestling, early 90s wrestling, where you just had regular guys that hung around that wore plain tights, and basically they got paid to get beat up for 2 minutes and squashed on TV while they promote the better matches at house shows.
Yeah.
But since then, this is a word that has become massively used in politics, sports talk radio across the world. So it is not to the major mainstream, it's a term that people use. And so for them to say, I find this some kind of upsetting term, I mean, you're going to have to get upset at a lot of people, even outside the wrestling world, if you're going to be mad about that. And to me, it's like, I don't know. Maybe she was having a bad night. Maybe she was sore from, that was a hell of a bump Chelsea took off the ladder on those tables. I don't know, but
Yeah.
I'm glad you stood up for yourself, Mike. I don't think, it's Twitter,
Yeah.
What else can you say? So,
Well, and it's real. It's if you don't know me, I could see how I could be off-putting. I get that, and I open myself up for that, and I happen to be okay with it. Look, people are like, oh, well, you can't make jokes anymore. Yeah, you can. It's whether or not you're willing to deal with the blowback when it goes wrong. I'm willing to deal with it. What I don't like is my friends getting involved and then people coming after them. And so my message to people is, if you see me drowning, just know that I muted that tweet and I'm not reading any of that shit.
Oh, I didn't. That's why I didn't come to your defense. I figured this whole thing entertained you.
Yeah. Hey, BJ. Well, so the real reason why we brought you on, and I think a lot of people are in the chat. They're already starting to talk about it, and I want to get some of your insight. I actually earlier this week did kind of like, I'm not really doing aggregate articles. I don't really like that term. I'm not doing that. Oh, that's not a slur, by the way. Aggregator. It's not a slur, but I'm not doing that. But I did take to like the free tier on our Patreon and kind of commented on one of your articles and use it as source material for one of my own articles. So earlier this week on SE Scoops, you kind of broke the story that AEW and WBD had an agreement in principle. And kids, if you're listening to this, wrestling fans specifically, if you're listening to this, Google the term in principle, and I'm sure Uncle BJ is going to explain it to everybody. That does not mean they have a signed agreement. That does not mean that they have a deal locked into place already. It means it's in principle. But it looks like they're going to be staying with WBD for the foreseeable future, unless something significantly drastic happens.
Yes, they're really, really close, and it's pretty locked down. And my just to be clear on this, my sources aren't from WWE. Okay.
Yes.
Which apparently it's turned into this whole thing where Brandon Thurston asked Tony Khan about my article, and then Tony went off about, because I guess people in WWE PR, probably Chris Legento and Nick Khan, from what I've been told, have been, and I wasn't told this by Brandon or anybody else. This is from other people that they've been trying to spread some disinformation or negativity about AEW's upcoming TV deal. This is old hat WWE TNA fans. You remember this stuff from the 2000s and the 2010s, but to get back to the real story is they're very, very close to a deal, and it is a very, very good deal for AEW. I haven't talked to anybody at AEW about this. I've talked to people in the TV industry that are very familiar with a lot of this, and it's going to be a good deal for them. Now, I don't know when it becomes official. I don't know if they have anything set in a date for when they're going to sign. I don't know if it's been lawyered all the way through. I do know they have a deal in principle. And when I say principle, I don't mean the guy running your middle school. Um, I mean, they have something they've kind of shook hands on and say, okay, those terms sound good. We'll work from there. Okay.
Yeah.
So if you're an idiot listening to this online and
Get a
you
lot
want
of
to
those.
call me a pedophile over it or whatever the hell it is, go get a dictionary and spend the next 5 years of your life reading it. Because
I thought you were going to tell them to go get a dick.
Yeah, go get one of those too.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
I don't want to be I don't want to be like
well,
crazy over
BJ,
this. But it's easy. It's deal in principle, and it's like
Yeah.
it doesn't mean anything about WWE. It doesn't mean anything. It just means they have a deal in principle. It's news, and it's a good thing.
it means
because,
they both sides have an idea of what looks right for them, right? And
Yeah.
they're
Yes,
really
they
close
do.
to putting pen to paper. But
And
BJ, I do want to clear the air on this, because I had some people tweeting me like, "Hey, BJ's your friend. Did he say this?" And I said, "No, he didn't say this." But and Sean Ross Sapp never said that you said this either, but he did an article for Fightful, and he said that there are reports out there that a deal is imminent. But I can confirm that is not the case. BJ, you never said that a deal was imminent, correct?
No, I have never said that because I don't know when it's going to get signed. I mean, they got the Olympics ahead. From what I know, Warner Brothers Discovery is a small office, and they still have the team. They still have the NBA thing they're trying to figure out. Obviously, the NBA rejected that offer today. That's probably going to go to court. That's a big thing for them to handle. And there's the Olympics coming up. David Zaslav's supposed to be out there. Sapp reported that, and so's Tony Khan. You also have football training camps that just started this week. You have the Ring of Honor pay-per-view coming up. There's a lot of things that could happen that are happening right now that could keep this from happening, like a signing being imminent. I mean, it could go into September. But I've been told enough and sourced it enough to know that they're really, really close to a deal. It is in principle, and it's not signed. It is not official. It has not been notarized. It has not been stamped. It's nothing like that. They have a deal in principle. It's a very, very good deal. It's a deal, I believe, from what I've been told and what the people involved have been told, believe will happen. When this is all said and done, they will end up having content on Max, the streaming service. It also will, I guess Tony mentioned a little today that they've even discussed Ring of Honor with Warner Brothers Discovery, which if that's something that helps Warner, if that's something that ends up on Max or maybe True TV, is a huge boon to AEW. And this is all great news for the wrestling industry because this means your wrestlers are going to get paid more. They're going to be taken care of more. There's going to be more wrestlers coming. There's going to be more wrestling on TV. There's going to be more competition. It's not going to be a monopoly. And maybe you'll see other investors get involved in other companies. Look just how well TNA's been over the last year. So that's what I got on this. And I've been given ballpark figure numbers. I'm not saying them because I don't want to go there because I don't have anything official in stone. I don't think they do either. I think they have a pretty close idea on what they've agreed upon. And I think that once this is official, people are going to be surprised at how well of a deal they got.
BJ, I want you to understand what you've just done. You have completely killed our YouTube numbers now because you said something positive about AEW. And that just doesn't play with the algorithm. It has to be all doom and gloom negative or no one's going to watch our show. I'm sorry. That's just the rules. I don't make them.
Yeah.
Okay. It's just, I don't know what to say. The thing is like, Meltzer's mentioned this a bit before, but it's like the TV industry views AEW as a huge success. The way wrestling fans view it, where you're on Twitter and you're dealing with bots and trolls and angry fans. And let's face it, even without bots and trolls, even in the 90s, 2000s on the internet, wrestling fans were a bunch of assholes. We were talking about how dumb wrestlers could be on Twitter. The wrestling fans, they find dumb and they keep digging below it. And I'm not saying that about everybody, but I'm saying there's people who like to be miserable, and they follow all sorts of culture. For some reason, wrestling fans have a lot of them. They like to be miserable. But I can tell you this: is this TV industry views AEW as a big success, and I mean, people don't realize, they draw more than the average NHL regular season game. They draw more than the average MLB baseball game, where they're getting 300,000. I mean, that's Rampage numbers. You're talking about the big leagues, baseball, you're talking about NHL hockey. I mean, and the one thing I had somebody in the industry told me, it really stuck with me, was that it is almost impossible to create a top 5 show. And it's like every now and then you'll get lucky with a Yellowstone, which becomes like a huge hit, right? Which I hate that show. I'm more of a Justified guy. But anyway, but it's like it is hard. And let alone one that finishes number 1. Let alone one that beats most of the major sports in demos half the time. So this is a very successful TV venture. Now, could the booking be better? Could this be better? Could that be better? Sure. I mean, that's part of being a fan and discussing it and all that, and part of the internet era. But I mean, just strictly speaking about the deal and in the company, it's been an overwhelming success as far as TV people see it.
The problem is that we have so many people that can't leave the Attitude Era. It's guys like Mike and I's age, right? It's people that grew up in this WCW, WWF, Monday Night War. One has to be better than the other. One has to be winning, one has to be losing, and the losing has to die, right? It's very Highlander. It's very Highlander on the internet. So, I mean, like, we can't just exist, and find me another startup sports league that's had this type of success. Right, you can't say for the USFL or XFL. This is what
I can tell you this right now. Talking to not TV executives, but people that work in that realm, to go back to find something that's as successful as a startup, you have to go back to Melrose Place, which was pretty much the first venture of Beverly Hills 90210 and that production company, and they were becoming like the number 1 show on on network TV. That's where you're at with AEW and cable. If you're talking sports leagues, you got to go back to the AFL in the 1960s, which was, the competitor to the NFL, and was, they ended up merging in 1970, but it was a huge league at the time. That's like been the only successful secondary sports league. And in all that time, maybe the USFL had some bright spots here and there, but Donald Trump ultimately killed it.
I think UFC would kind of fit the bill there,
but
although they didn't really get on the cable until like 05.
UFC didn't have anything that could, like, even UFC
was its own thing, though. UFC is a combat sport of its own, mixing martial arts. It was in an octagon. It was not. Now, if it was, let's say, taking on boxing, like they were going to have their own boxing style and do something like that, then you could say that's a secondary company.
Oh, but okay. I see what you're comparing it to. Okay.
I'm comparing it to having there's a larger company and then there's a challenger brand or a challenger company. As far as a challenger company or a startup, it's been very successful. UFC, I mean, I would, looking back at Ultimate Fighter, I think he could definitely make that claim, but they were much more of a pay-per-view show company. They weren't doing weekly television.
Right.
I mean, Ultimate Fighter wasn't on, it had seasons, but it wasn't on every week.
It was a reality show.
Yeah, it was a reality show, and it was a great reality show. The first season is some of the best TV I saw in forever. But it's been successful. Now, does that mean, that the company doesn't have issues? No. I think Tony Khan would tell you there's things he would like to see done different. I think that a lot of the people there would like to see things done different. But at the same time, I watch WWE and I'm like, there's a lot of issues on there. That's just it. It's like, it's hard to find. A wrestling company sometimes will hit that golden path for a year or two where they're just in the zone. New Japan managed to do it for like 5 or 6 years, right? But most of the time, you're not going to get that. And I think right now, and I'll tell anybody this, if you've watched the 3rd episode of Death of WCW, and you don't like any of the wrestling right now, you need to go see a psychologist.
Yeah.
You don't like wrestling, is what it comes down to.
Yeah. Hey,
it's
BJ, one thing that people are connecting the holdup on this AEW deal, the thing, and you brought it up a little bit, and I kind of want to circle back to it, is this deal between WBD and the NBA. So the I guess Amazon struck a deal with the NBA for, I think, what, $1.8 billion for their C package. Is that what I'm reading?
yes.
Yeah. So NBA accepted that, and then WBD matched it. But now NBA has come out and said, no, you didn't match it because from what I'm seeing, Amazon is more of a global company. So they feel like that's the better deal. So it looks like this whole thing's going to end up in court, right?
Yes. So this is pretty much how people saw it going. They would match Amazon, and the NBA would say, no, we're going with Amazon. And they gave several different reasons why TNT couldn't match. Because in the contract, if TNT matched, they get to keep the games. Now, the NBA is going to the NBA is arguing, no, they didn't match because, one, it's a global brand. And the other part was that, two, Amazon's paying all their money up front, whereas TNT, Warner Brothers, Discovery isn't. Some of it's going to be on a line of credit, which is not unusual to happen in the TV business. But that's the difference there. Now, how it works out is I think that TNT will get some kind of buyout. I think that's in their deal if they match, but they don't get it. So the NBA will have to pay them some money. I believe that's how the terms work. But people are asking, what's going. I mean, everybody knew ahead of time and has said this forever. And Dave Meltzer's bringing this chorus for a while, which was, even though this is really screwing with the wrestling companies, the NBA deal was going to get done first before there would be an AEW deal. And it was going to be hard for WWE at that same time. They were really wanting Amazon too. They ended up getting a really backloaded deal with Netflix. But they got a lot of what they wanted with that, which was global exposure and a lot of money. But it's this is just kind of how it was going to work out. Plus, I don't think people realize this. Turner's office right now is much different than it was back when AEW started. I mean, this would have been done. This kind of deal would have been done probably a couple months ago, when everything was quiet, and it would have just been announced one day. I mean, they kind of did that on their first renewal, which was like 3 months into the birth of the company, which is something I've never seen, and is a huge accomplishment. But and of course they got more money last year, but it's just Zaslav's different, the office is different, and there's also a lot of different things happening.
There's a strange corporate culture in the history of Warner Brothers that stretches back decades, that it's like no matter who runs it, no matter who's in charge, things are always backwards, and it's always kind of a disaster. I've joked with Mike on this show numerous times about the countless billions of dollars that have been spent on unmade Superman movies and stuff like that. It's like no matter who's in charge of Warner Brothers, no matter what iteration is, there's always seems to be issues. And this dates back to the merger with Discovery and Warner. And Zaslav comes from Discovery. Like, he made his bones with Dr. Pimple Popper and whatnot. And he is largely looked at as one of the worst executives in this. He was so over. He's so over his head when it comes to stuff like running a studio. Warner Brothers has been a disaster since Zaslav took over, right?
Yeah.
It's been the one shining, like, I think they had a couple, like last year was a decent year for them. They had Dune 2 and Oppenheimer were successes, in Barbie. Like, they did good with that. But before that, complete and total disaster. DC has been a complete nightmare for them. They've had to reboot it because things were so bad. Like, and this again, the regime before didn't do a great job either. It's just the people who are running Turner seem to have their stuff together. Now that's not the case. Like, Zaslav,
that seems to be kind of this seems to happen today. You talk about going all the way back to Jamie Kellner and Warner Brothers buying Turner. It's just that Turner has their stuff together, then they get bought by a company that doesn't. And it turns out that maybe Turner should have been the company that bought out the other one.
Well,
You
that's
know,
the
it's
thing.
like, why was Discovery buying Warner Brothers? You know, Turner.
Because
it's like, that doesn't make sense to me. It's
well,
like, why
typically what
was
happens,
AOL buying Warner Brothers? That should have not been that way. It should have been the
they
other
were
way around.
the stronger company. It's a stronger company typically take when you have these mergers.
Yes.
The company that's technically worth more money tends to run the show. And at the time, like we'll go back to 2000, AOL was a monolith in the
Yeah.
world. Like they made so much money so fast. Remember, Mike, when we were kids, you would get AOL discs in the mail.
Yeah.
Like, hey,
Oh, yeah.
here's AOL. Here's AOL. You have AOL now. Like, but again, that merger was a complete disaster, not for Turner or Warner, but for AOL. The AOL completely died off that, and eventually it was spun out, and we get to where we are now. Turner wasn't exactly. If you read the Nitro book, which has its flaws, Guy Evans I think did a decent job talking about Turner corporate culture. Turner corporate culture had its issues too. So it's like no matter who's kind of at the helm of this, it's always been kind of a disaster. We're not exactly talking about Disney here, realistically speaking.
And I think we're also in a period where all these major companies are struggling because they even though they had the keys to the faucet, they tried to get into the streaming game and these massive contract for content purchases where you have like somebody spending $1 billion for the Friends catalog, and it's completely that kind of mismanagement is really just hurt these studios. It's ironic that you were talking about how badly the DC universe has been mismanaged, and The Rock was a huge part of that. And now
yes, he was.
Now he's over there helping run TKO, and I mean, I honestly think that kind of culture. I think that massive culture, because if you look at Marvel, once you get further away from the Marvel Studios days and more closer when Disney was more in control of things after they bought it, and you're getting away from that first kind of prototype they built, it's unquestionably worse. And I just think there's just too many people. There's too many cooks in a chicken when you're doing these things. And
sorry,
but it's like that's the biggest problem they have right now, and that's one thing I think is important for AEW getting this deal is because there's not a lot of money people are wanting to spend, and you're looking at companies that are kind of very much in flux. So them being able to get a 4 or 5 year deal right now, and a good one, is great news for them. And people trying to say it's just matching what they were getting last year after they added Collision. That's just stupid. I mean, if people are actually reporting that, I mean, maybe it's coming from WWE PR, like Tony said. I do know that some places, I remember the Torch reported from WWE sources that CM Punk was going to AEW. I mean, this has been a thing going on for a while. And I'll just say this as a reporter for a long time. Don't listen to the competition. Don't write based off what the competition tells you in the story. Find somebody else that's either neutral or knows what's going on or you trust, and go from there. And I think he's got a right to be angry about that. But at the same time, it's like, this is just taking so much. It's taken so much focus off of what, of enjoying the product or even the time we're in, that it's insane.
It's this rush to be first, right? Especially with so many wrestling reporters who don't have training in media ethics or understanding how to source material, right? It's this idea that we have to run based on a subscription-based model, that we have to get the scoops, the Z out as soon as humanly possible, regardless of whether or not stuff is real. And WWE PR, we're talking about sharks, man. They know that if they get 2 weeks of people tweeting about how it's a worse offer, that's going to become the narrative. And then then reality doesn't matter. All that matters is who shapes the narrative.
Yeah. And they really have I covered the Russian disinformation campaign back in 2015, 2016. And, a lot of people believe this thing never happened. Well, it did. I mean, people got convicted and got prison time for it. There's evidence of it. I wrote about it for the Sydney Morning Herald. And corporate culture was already dabbling in that, and they've really come to perfect it. And I mean, if people were like, well, why would Elon Musk buy Twitter and sell, use every dime he has in his fortune? Well, because there's ways to make money off that. I mean, it's a great service if you're a corporation or you're a political entity and you want to get a message out, or you want to manipulate behavior or something, which is what marketing and advertising basically is. And I'm not trying to sound conspiracy minded or anything, but it's a good tool to do that. And if you look at how,
it's a legitimate thing.
WWE's loaded up Reddit with so many of their own mods, and it's so much of their stuff can be traced back to them. And there's a real reason why. I mean, look at the Fast Nationals every week. It's like they don't even try to hide it, which was ironically what a lot of the Russians did back in 2015, 2016. You caught them because they were so arrogant. They didn't even try to cover their tracks. And that was people over here too. And that were, part of that. But, and a lot of them got jail time because of, doing stuff like voter fraud and things like that. But talking about in the corporate realm and how this relates to wrestling, it's that, they're not even covering up their fingerprints on this. I mean, it's when you see Fast Nationals on a couple sites, and then all of a sudden everybody's, sharing that. It's like after a while you'd say, you know what? Wouldn't I be sick of being burned by this after a while?
Hey, BJ, you've been around a while, and you've been, a part of many different publications, both, I guess, pro wrestling and civilian. We'll just say the rest of the world is civilian. My military speak. How do I get somebody to send me these Fast Nationals? Like, how would I even go about doing that? Because I'll be honest, BJ, I do really want someone to send them to me because I want to read the email live on the show and expose who sent it.
That would be great. It's very easy. Go to the boards that are posting them. I mean, there's a few that do it every week when they do it. I think, the Forbes guy gets it quite a bit. And they're not even really covering it up. And I think that's kind of the issue where, it doesn't pay to have credibility. It pays to be somebody's, kind of, being rigged for somebody to slant things for them because, you'll get favor from them. Maybe you'll get some tickets. You'll have a bunch of fans loving your reporting. A lot of what we're seeing now is what we saw like happening with partisan political media through the 90s and the 2000s. And it's now grown to where you're seeing it in sports, where there's almost like an Alex Jones for everything. There's an Alex Jones for pro wrestling. There's an Alex Jones for politics. There's an Alex Jones for sports, or a Rush Limbaugh, or throw in your liberal counter or progressive counterpart, and so when you want to get real information, it's hard to do. It's like, the guy who's the best at it's Dave Meltzer, and he's the most vilified person in the wrestling business. It's like, why? What's Dave done to anybody? You may not like his tweets, you may not like what he says on the radio, on the radio, but guess this is his opinion. If you want information, guess where everybody still goes to at the end of the day. And it's like people just need to relax a little bit, and they need to understand it. This isn't worth getting fired up for. Like the mutant button on Twitter is the greatest thing ever invented on that thing. And I used a lot too. And it's like, you can take the negativity out of it. But I also like information. I like to report. And some people are going to like it, some people don't. And hey, nice. Have a nice day. But
hey, BJ, I got some guys in the chat here, and some of them have questions for you. You down to take some questions?
Yeah.
All right, hey, everybody, if you're listening to this on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts, go to patreon.com/The Mike and JD Show. JD and I had a full slate of topics that we were going to get to tonight, but I cut about a 20-minute promo to start the show, and I kind of threw everything off. So we're going to save that for our Patreon show. JD and I, after we go live here tonight, we're going to go right to another stream, and we're going to send that over to Patreon. And so we're going to do that there. But BJ, the first question, hey guys in the chat, if you have questions for BJ Bethel, he has done not only pro wrestling reporting for over 20 years, but he has been in the Washington Post and all kinds of different major publications. He has covered sports. He's covered politics. So if you got any questions for him, go ahead and fire them away in the chat. This one comes from Everything Pro Wrestling. It says, does BJ know if there's any Ring of Honor interest from WBD?
The only thing I've heard is that Tony says it has been a discussion. He said this during the conference call today, was they have discussed this with Warner. The fact that they are talking about it, to me, is good. I don't know what will come of it. But from all that I know, that's all that I've heard.
Okay. This one comes from the King of the North. He is the king of all Canada. He said, Ring of Honor potentially getting on TV sounds like a great thing for TNA too, does it?
It depends on the kind of deal they get. I mean, if Ring of Honor gets, if it comes public that, let's say they get, oh, wow, they were worth such and such millions of dollars to Warner to put on True TV or Discovery, yeah, that'd be a huge boon to TNA. I think that, I think the more players that are in this, and with sports, I mean, it's right now live sports is all, and there's got to be an exception to that. And right now, pro wrestling's the good one for it. It gives you programming 52 days a year, or 52 weeks a year,
Yeah.
But I'm getting my calendars all mixed up. But yeah, I think it'd be great for TNA. I think TNA's done such a good job running over the last year, especially with what Scotty D'Amore put into that. I think they're in a good position if this happens.
Yeah. We actually got a question from Scott Steiner. I don't think this is the real Scott Steiner. And Scotty, I'm going to read your question, but I'm going to tell you right now, BJ can't answer the question, but I'm going to go ahead and fire it away anyway, since you took the time to type it. Said, this is from Big Papa Pump, Scott Steiner, brother of Rick Steiner, uncle of, what the hell's that kid's name in
Braun
WWE?
Breaker.
Braun Breaker, yeah. He said, is the deal in the 125 to 150 million a year range?
Fittingly a math question.
Yes.
I'm not answering any math questions.
There you go. Yeah, I didn't think. Look, I heard some numbers from like 2 or 3 different people earlier in the week, and they were a little bit above that. So, but but who knows what the number really is going to be? I think the shoe with the NBA has to drop.
They will be very, very happy. If you're an AEW fan and you're AEW, I think it will be very happy with this.
The numbers don't lie.
That's right. Yeah.
Unless inflation skyrockets or something, I don't know. But anyway, and seriously though, but that's you're going to be happy with it. I don't want to get into specific numbers, but they'll be Big Papa Pump. You'll get your hookup.
that was bravo, BJ, bravo. Yeah, thank you. Yeah. Hey, this is Mike from Hawaii asking a question, BJ. Hey, what is wrong with Joe Burrow? Why does he look like Eminem now?
So apparently, I guess they had some kind of deal in the preseason where they decided they were going to get buzz cuts. Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, and Joe Burrow were the ones that are really committed to it. And they all go to the same barber over in Florence, Kentucky. And I guess Burrow kind of said it was his idea. This is some local controversy because he said it was his idea from Athens High School, where he went to high school at and played football. And when they won the district title, they all buzzed their hair off. And he said he came up with it. But Jamar Chase says he came up with it first and was the first to cut his hair. So we'll see what happens. But right now, it was this kind of, and I guess Joe, being Joe, decided to add his own little touch and go with the Cody Rhodes, Eminem, Jonah Hill from the very beginning of the first catch jump, 21 Jump Street, 21 with the blonde lock look. And Joe says that it is definitely much cooler under the helmet, but he's getting a lot more sweat in his face, so he may have to adjust.
Yeah. Headband.
All right, we have a few more minutes left, and sure. One topic I want to get to while BJ is on, but I want to kick it to JD first, and then this is how we will we'll close it out. JD, and I'm sure BJ did too. Did you guys watch Blood and Guts last night, and what were your thoughts on the match?
I'll go first. It was all right. I mean, it was silly. It was stupid. I'm entertained by the AEW. I think the AEW plunder matches always come off to me a little bit more violent and dangerous than the WWE ones, so I typically like them more. I liked the chair shot to Jungle Boy's head because it's not my head. What do I care? You know? I thought the end was anticlimactic when Darby was going to light Jack on fire. Although we did see that has been established that Jack Perry can get lit on fire.
Only when you've been doused with an oil and a film that protects your skin.
Well, he was getting doused again, so maybe. But I mean, I don't know. Like I thought the match was really good. I thought the crowd just absolutely erupted for Swerve. I think they finally got Swerve into a spot where he feels like the guy. I thought Mark Briscoe had a coming out moment, which I think his positioning in the company, I think, works out well with these rumors of ROH getting some shine, him still being the ROH champion. I just didn't like. I mean, I thought it was fine for what it was. A lot of logic gaps, but I don't know. War Games always had logic gaps, even going back to the Dusty matches. So I mean, like, it was. I didn't like the ending, but I thought the match was fine.
Yeah. How about you, BJ?
I gotta echo JD. I thought it was funny in spots. I thought it was a good match. I thought Mark Briscoe came off as a star. I think this is a guy who's just always been a mega level talent, and he's never really got a chance to show it. I think a lot of it was because of how people, kind of stereotyped him and his brother. But he's just a guy who can flat out wrestle, loaded with charisma and energy. And he was the star of the match. I mean, some of the things I enjoyed, I don't know if it actually happened because when I was watching the replay, my TV kind of gave out. But I think there was a spot where, Obama's trying to, or no, Obama. God, I'm tired. Sorry. Okada was, he's trying to get over this a-hole gimmick so badly. And he's like, I guess he tried to do a Rainmaker, then caught Briscoe in between the legs. And then somebody was writing about it. So I was like, well, that's something I wish I could go back and see because it sounds funny. But the Swerve, I thought the thing they also did very, very well was that they made Swerve a huge deal.
Yeah.
Like he was even a bigger deal than Hangman. Like when he got into the match, everything changed. It was 5-on-1, and he came out on top of that. And he's really becoming a strong champion. He's really becoming a star. That's one thing I think they've done well with him. And I think one thing that's attributed to that is because he's with Hangman. And Hangman's their best character. He's the protagonist, as I like to call him. And I think at some point they'll all have to, figure their demons out and be joint baby faces, I hope. But and hopefully that happens sooner than later.
Should that be the all-in match, JD? Should that have been the all-in match?
No, I don't think so, because I think you got Danielson. I wish Danielson cared about this match, quite frankly. On paper, it makes sense to go with Swerve and Bryan Danielson because you're trying to sell tickets. Bryan Danielson's a legend working toward retirement. I just wish we had a guy who actually gave a flying fuck about winning a title. That's the only thing I can't figure out. I mean, like, I think that Hangman and Swerve has become like the second biggest feud in the history of the company, with Mox and Kenny Omega being the first.
Yeah.
So I think that it's reached that levels. Mike, I'm sorry, but we're gonna have to have a Kazuchika Obama T-shirt in our store. I'm gonna need that.
If I could get someone that can merge Obama and Okada into like a picture, and then we can do Kazuchika Obama. I think that would be killer. You can tell that BJ, like, during the day is like covering politics, and then he's got to come talk on to two wrestling idiots at night.
Well, I know. I can't wait to see your Kamala Harris T-shirt along with it. That should be great.
Oh my God, we need to do a whole line of stuff, dude. We do know a guy who teaches Photoshop at the high school level. So
Yeah. Well, I mean, someone mentioned that Hulk Hogan did. Hulk Hogan went to the RNC because he didn't have to mess with Kamala again. And I'm like, well, first of all, it's Kamala, but that's still funny.
It's still funny. It still works.
Still
good. But yeah, I think I think the all-in build's been. I really don't like Danielson's attitude through all this. I know he's trying to be himself and all that, but he's got to show more. I mean, maybe this is part of how they're working this main event. I don't know, but I mean, with Swerve, it's I think it's important. I mean, because obviously, I think they're going to put the belt on Danielson. And I think that if they don't and they keep it on Swerve, it doesn't help him at all if Danielson doesn't give a damn. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It doesn't help Swerve at all. He's got to be up for this in character. And maybe this is something they're doing as a storyline. Maybe we'll figure it out. Maybe he sneaks into Danielson's house and starts dropping T-shirts on, in his kids' rooms. I don't know.
I'd watch that.
But I hated that. I mean, I love the angle that came out of that. I hated that at first. It was cheesy garbage, but I don't know. Maybe we'll see what happens.
King of the North has a good point from the chat. He said he thinks the girls have kind of carried the build to the pay-per-view. And I gotta say, man, I don't think he's that far off, if at all. I feel like Mariah May and Toni Storm, and then of course Britt Baker and Mercedes Moné, who now has Camille Brickhouse in her corner as like her heavy, who I really loved in Beverly Hills Cop 2. I thought she was great.
Did you see those two at Comic Con today?
No,
I did not know.
Oh, Camille was dressed as Bane, and Mercedes was dressed as I can't think it was Joker maybe, I don't know. They kind of did a cosplay and raided the AEW press conference, and they got into a fight with Britt, and then Tony Khan said he had enough of them and said that he's going to put him in the match at All In, and Mercedes did her heel thing where she said, "I told you she's the one person I won't wrestle," and the crowd loved it, but I love it. This is something that needs to be held. What's carried this company storyline-wise the last 4 or 5 months has been the women. Willow and Chris was great. Tony and Mariah has been built perfect, especially when they brought in Mina. That was her heel turn. That was a very good real heel turn. That's how you do a heel turn.
Yeah.
You don't do it halfway. You go all the way. You do it bad. You make them a bad guy. And also Britt and Mercedes are just, people are chomping at the bit for that. I mean, you get outside of that, what else is hot in that company storyline-wise? It's just Swerve and Hangman.
Yeah.
Couple things.
We have a fact checker. We have a fact checker in the chat. Io said that she was Poison Ivy. So Poison Ivy from, from the Batman universe.
Hold on.
I don't read comic books.
I do.
JD's going to educate us.
Yes. So Bane and Poison Ivy is a reference to Batman and Robin, the worst film ever made as far as mainstream movie goes.
Is that the George Clooney one?
That would be the George Clooney one.
Yeah. Okay, so, I saw that at 4 a.m. one night.
I saw it opening night and was excited, and I've never been more disappointed in my life.
Yeah, Clooney took down the Batman universe, and then he took down the Biden presidency, man. That guy is out for blood. Sorry, go ahead.
He's the Terminator, man.
Yeah.
So big no on that. So Mike, I have to make an apology because I have been hard on Pepperman, and she not only have the girls carried. Not only have the girls carried this promotion for a bit now, but it turns out she is also the advocate of one Mark Briscoe in the back. So because I know I've been hard, I have to tip my bandana to one Jennifer Pepperman. She has adjusted her style to what AEW likes. There's still too much sports entertainment in this company for my personal liking, but from what I gather, she is not the problem. So kudos to Miss Pepperman.
Well, we can still hate on Jimmy Jacobs.
They've had was
fuck Jimmy Jacobs.
Going back a couple, that guy. But a lot of the success they had started a few years ago. I mean, BJ Whitman got fired from there. Was working with the women, and at the time they were looking for a producer who would just take them more seriously. So, and working with him, they were able to be more creative. They were able to get more things done. They were able to trust themselves, work things into the matches, and they kind of built off that. And I guess Toni Storm, a lot of people RJ City's getting a lot of credit for Toni Storm's gimmick, but I guess this is something she's had an idea for a long time. I mean, Tony Khan's even taken some credit for it, but I think Tony's actually the one that actually originated it. But I mean, if you look at that lineup, the women are really carrying that promotion, and I think Mercedes was the moment where they're kind of like, what? Rio drew well for us. Ashita drew well for us. Nyla's the great heel. Thunder Rosa was great. They did great. She had that amazing feud with Britt Baker where they ended it in a lights out match. They kind of took women's wrestling in a new direction, but they didn't embrace it. And I think now they're finally embracing it, and it's been rewarding for them. At least, hopefully they keep doing it.
Yeah, and as much as I love to sit here and compliment AEW, this really is going to tank our numbers. Our show is going to be.
Here's what you can
Sorry,
do. Mike. Here's what you got.
bad.
No, here's what you got to do. Mike, you're going to have to lie
bring
on
back
the show
suicide.
description.
Yeah. So, guys, if you just see me using an unflattering face of Tony Khan, you know that our show is too positive because we really are going to take the numbers on these clips. Although I think the AEW TV deal stuff will play very well for us. But hey, we are over the 1 hour mark, so we're going to go ahead and get off here. Everybody go to patreon.com/the Mike and JD Show. I have a whole list of free agency news and topics that I want to talk about. Now, I actually did an article about all the latest and greatest free agency news from earlier in the week. I put that article on patreon.com/Mike and JD Show for free, so you can check that out for free. But JD and I are actually going to talk about all the upcoming free agents, big names, who's signing new contracts, who's going where, and all that stuff. Head to patreon.com/the Mike and JD Show for overtime. I'm not going to wait till Sunday to release it. I'm going to release it right away because I think it's topical. So we're going to get to that. Hey, BJ, why don't you go ahead and throw some plugs out there? Let's plug SE Scoops and wherever we can see your writing.
Visit SE Scoops. We got a lot of stuff on there. You can go back. I wrote an article today on the latest filings in the Janelle Grant lawsuit. That's kind of been my main story. Really, that's kind of the only thing I'm worried about covering right now. But if you want interested in the latest on that, I have some filing. I have a report on that, some of the findings that's going on the last couple of weeks. Also, I'm on Twitter if you want to ask questions or anything like that. You can ask me about anything. I'm a fountain of knowledge of worthless stuff. So hit me up. Hit me up if you want to know something that's not going to help you in any way, shape, or form.
Awesome. Well, thanks, BJ. All right, everybody, we're going to get out of here. Chat, thank you. Sorry I did not get to most of your chats because we were on a roll, and I do. Hey, man, I got a 20-minute promo.
Well, I take blame. I got a big mouth.
Yeah. Well, I mean, but that's why you're great on the show. We need someone that actually can hold their own in a conversation. But all right, guys, that is going to do it for us this week. And until next time, mahalo.
Competition starting to get thick, it's the click, so I hope you watch your A game. Amen. No rain from the track when we unite and spit. This isn't A